Right, so I'm here today to speak with Thomas, PKI extraordinaire from Keyfactor, officially PKI Chief Officer?
Chief PKI Officer.
PKI Officer, sorry.
Well, you can guess that I got to choose my own title.
Of course, quite a cracking title it is. And yeah, we're just having a sort of casual conversation about state of PKI or what your thoughts are about PQC, and feel free to dive into HSM vendor space if you like. And that. So what do you have? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, PKI is finally hot. How do you say? I started with this for actually 30 years ago with PKI space, and it was mostly governmental and identity cards, web servers, of course.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of admittedly by everyone that PKI is the foundation of secure communication driving everything that we do in the world. Without PKI, the world as we know it would cease to exist, which is pretty cool, and it's kind of risen in awareness the last couple of years, which then comes with some problems as well.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that as well. It's sort of not quite 30 years, but it's just, I'm thinking I've got my 25th sort of anniversary of being in PKI. I think it's like a couple of weeks time, 14th of May, I think it was, I started.
Yeah. Do you remember your first PKI project?
Oh, I do. But like you say, it was like governments and banks, and that was about it. There wasn't much else going on for a good 10 or so years, 15 or so years. And then with the, I guess it was in my mind, the population explosion with cloud computing, and the next PKI is underpinning everything. Damn.
And security being kind of slightly more front and center. Things like zero trust, whatever you think of the buzzword, or used to be a buzzword, not anymore, I guess. Now the buzzwords are AI and PQC, I hope.
Yeah, true. So speaking of PQC, another hot topic at the moment, what are your thoughts? How do you think things are evolving? I realize, there's a lot of talk about it and then we were sort of, this ran the competition for the algorithms, and that they standardized those, and they came out July last year, and it sort of went from just talking about it to you should start planning. And then now with I think, from my opinion, the start of this year, it's been right, we've kind of warmed you up to do the planning, though a lot of places aren't. Started to warm up to the planning. Now you got to start thinking about getting your crypto inventory.
Yeah.
Start discovering that, but
yeah, I mean, I say, is watershed moment an appropriate term in English, right?
Yeah.
So I think when, as mentioned, the standards came out 13th of August last year, that was, the first watershed moment when it came to PQC. And I guess, a bit optimistic. So I was a bit over-optimistic. I was predicting that we would do our first production PQC, PKI in end of last year, but well, that was obviously way too optimistic. But now it looks more higher probability that's actually going to happen in 25.
Right.
So things are really moving. I think a couple of weeks ago was what at least I consider another watershed moment was then OpenSSL 3.5 came out with PQC support. I mean, we had in Bouncy Castle, so we did it in EDBCA and other pieces before, but a thing like OpenSSL is really used on like every device on the planet. So with that support in place, it's really ready for actual production use, end-to-end use cases, which is something fabulous.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's one of the nice things I think it's to watch and see over the last, 12 months is vendors. So once those standards came out, I mean, I know certain vendors like yourselves were supporting PQC algorithms and developing it ready for their products, but having all those products starting to come to fruition now, and from our sort of space, when we're putting together the jigsaw and plugging those products in, it's a much easier to identify the right products and know that they've got the capabilities for the PQC stuff in the background.
That's also a great way of putting it. There's a lot of more pieces of the jigsaw in place now that you can actually start seeing the full pictures.
Yep. Yeah, indeed.
That is. So that's really fun to be a place to be in at the moment. At the same time, we're seeing, as you touched on the inventory side, coming from a PKI space, so you see now people are asking more about full cryptographic inventory, not only certificates and PKI, but on other places in file systems, SSH, everything. So that is becoming slowly a topic among our customers.
Right. Yeah, see, I'm liking the discovery thing as well, in terms of obviously you've got your own CLM products and they do a certain amount of discovery, but it's sort of not just certificates anymore. It's a lot broader and a lot wider. It's sort of taking that discovery up another level to get a proper good view of.
Yeah, we heard
your crypto assets are.
Right. Yesterday at the PQC Palooza, we heard Tahir El Gamal, the founder of SSL, was talking about inventory as well. So it's definitely a topic.
Yeah, it's kind of cool when the guys like that sort of so high up are sort of mentioning it and pushing it as well.
Yeah, legends in the industry.
Yeah, indeed. I found that chat quite funny where he's sort of taking the blame for everything. Hand up, it was my fault.
It's my fault.
Yeah, that's quite cool. That's quite cool. So I know you do a lot of work with the HSM vendors and stuff like that. How have you seen that? It's been sort of a piece of the jigsaw puzzle, but from my point of view, it's sort of one of the more important pieces to get right at the start.
Yeah, it is.
If you're doing a new system, I know you do a lot of work with them. How's that all going?
Yeah, I've been nagging the HSM vendors since we work with tons of them, and I've been nagging them since last year. Since August 13th when the standards came out. Basically, when can we test? When are you ready? When you have something? And as usual, of course, it's the smaller vendors are more nimble and faster. So we managed to integrate with so far 3 HSM vendors who have actually released PKC support in their HSMs.
Right.
And the bigger ones are always working a bit slower. They have more slow-moving processes and QA and everything like that. So, but they're eventually catching up. So today there is PKC HSM support, so you can really do a production deployment if you choose the right vendors. But you have to know what you're doing and kind of check out the market. But the HSM vendors are very well. They realize it's if they don't have it, they're out of business, right? So
indeed,
they're coming with it.
Yeah, see, funny you should mention the bigger vendors. And I mean, I guess you might have had this over the last couple of days as well, been involved on the fringes of CEOs talking. They talk about when organizations get so big, they lose a bit of their agility and that. And so, where they had products and they were smaller and they could adapt and sort of more rapidly develop that sort of thing. As you become better, bigger, your products use more, you lose that agility step. That's me borrowing from CEO chat.
Yeah,
that
totally. And now, especially with this transition to PQC, it's causing some nervousness. That why is this taking so long? But was this going to be sorted out in a couple of months, more or less, or by the end of this year, it's going to be standard features. I think. Well, there's of course certification as well, which you never know. That then it's authorities involved, and that kind of adds time to things, of course.
It does indeed. And with the PQC sort of angle to things, when you do speak to customers or other vendors, is there one? I guess there isn't really one singular problem, but is there one big sort of idea that you have to sort of educate them in or get across in comparison to, say, the more classical crypto PQCs coming across? Is there one particular idea or?
That's a great question, because I think the concept of hybrid cryptography, hybrid certificates, things like that, it's a really tricky topic. It's one of these that kind of looks simple when you kind of browse over it. It's it's obvious, right? But once you dig into the details, it's not obvious at all. There's a lot of complexities, and maybe it's suitable for some use cases, but not others.
Yeah.
So that's I have a lot of conversations around that to talk about the complexities involved and why it may not be the best choice for some use cases, while for some organizations and use cases who are able to handle it, it might be a great fit, but it's one of those where it's obvious that also, the end users, it's complicated, so it's not something that people can take to their hearts in a very easily. It's because it's not obvious.
I think I might have to come and speak to you about hybrids, so it's a bit more detail. So that kind of what I've seen, and that you have those initial conversations about PQC. And I try and sort of get across the fact, at least at the higher level, it's not all going to be a one-for-one replacement. It's not, I have this based on classical crypto, there's now some PQC algorithms, I can just replace it one-for-one. And so when I highlight that bit, the next thing is, can we go halfway? Can we do a hybrid? Can we?
Yep.
And I was like, well, you can, but that's a different question, or a different bag of questions, all around use cases and things like that.
And then it's everyone also started looking at the bigger ecosystem and putting all the pieces of the jigsaw together. You see, while it's a good fit for this jigsaw piece, it's actually it breaks if you go 3 pieces to the right.
Yep, indeed. On a more, I guess, sort of personal, casual note, being here in sunny San Francisco, the bay's lovely. There's a lot of facilities you can go to.
I love the weather.
Indeed. I've struggled to find, I shouldn't really say this out loud, I've struggled to find probably good coffee, strong coffee. When you sort of go to places like, Barcelona for Keyfactor Tech Days, things like that,
every coffee is beautiful.
Yeah, exactly, and stuff. What have you found here in terms of, say, maybe coffee, possibly even wine, maybe?
Yeah, for coffee, it's you have to stand in 2 long lines to get a good coffee. If you see good coffee, there's a huge line. So you skip the line and then you take the not so good coffee. And kind of sacrifice quality for speed there.
Right. Well, it depends on your use case, right?
So we had that actually yesterday. We were going to meet a couple of people and thought, well, let's pick up a coffee on the way, and so there's good barista coffee, but the line was 20 people, so we didn't have time to stand in line for half an hour. So we took the regular big pour coffee right next to it instead, which no one wants.
Yeah, indeed. Well, not when you're used to sort of barista made. You can take your time. They can go through the process of producing good coffee, and that I guess similar to sort of producing a good PKI product or PKI system. You got to take your time, go through the steps, and come out with a result at the end.
I really missed, before COVID, I knew I had a really small wine shop bar next to the hotel where we used to stay, but that disappeared during COVID. Now I have to find something new. It's not easy.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. That not being our first rodeo here in San Francisco, it's the I guess the changing landscape and sort of what was pre-COVID and what was post-COVID, and finding good facilities.
Yeah, I have to go up to Napa or Sonoma and go to the vineyards and to have some.
I was about to say
really good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff around here.
Yeah,
another place.
I've done Sonoma once before. That was really nice. Really good. Oh, Thomas, thanks for your time and that casual conversation about PKI and coffee, and hopefully we'll be in touch in the near future, and all the best.
Yeah,
thank you.
Todd.
Thank you.